We talked a little bit about the heart beating here at the Johnson Space Center. Of course, it was not always thus. Back in the days of Mercury and Gemini, the real heart of the action was at the Cape, where they now, of course, launch from. And ABC's Al Dale is down there. Al, it struck us as if hundreds, if not perhaps thousands of people had showed up this morning to share in this.
Yes, Peter, the one theater that you did see was full. It was full of NASA employees, and a lot of visitors are here on this sunny day. The services here at the Space Center shut down for the period of the memorial service, and many people did go into theaters and to closed-circuit television and watch the proceedings from Houston. In the meantime, though, the recovery operations offshore went on business as usual for another day today. The search area has been expanded to 6,800 square miles. Now, we were told yesterday that it was 8,000, but that was just an error. They're covering about a 6,800 square mile area off the coast of northern Florida, mostly in the area of Daytona Beach and north of there. The winds and the Gulf Stream, the tides, are making the debris float a little farther north than they thought. This is some material that was brought in late last night from the Coast Guard cutter Dallas that went out and picked up what appears to be very large sections. As a matter of fact, what in fact are large sections of the orbiter. These will, of course, be analyzed. Yes, Peter?
I would just say, I said earlier that some NASA people had been surprised at the size of pieces that they had been recovering. Am I correct in that?
That's right, because when, as you recall from the pictures, it looked as if it absolutely disintegrated. Now they go out and they look, and they expected to find tiny pieces, which they did, but also some very large chunks of the orbiter, and perhaps other parts of the shuttle, too.
Al, thank you very much. Al Dale at Cape Canaveral at the Kennedy Space Center, as people here at the Johnson Space Center begin to wander very slowly away from the area, not very far from Mission Control, where they had come to say goodbye today, where they had so often come in the past to come and say welcome home. I don't think there's a great deal more one can add this morning. Since Tuesday, we have come, at least some of us have come, to recognize, as with perhaps a greater sense of power than before, that we live in an age of television. And television and radio have enabled us all across the country to share in that instant of tragedy and in the subsequent shock and in the subsequent grief. If it proves anything, it perhaps proves what a family this nation is. I mentioned earlier the great American historian Daniel Boorstin, who in a quiet moment the other day tried to figure out where these particular shuttle astronauts would fit in the historical context. And it was that sense of community on which he dwelled, and I think on which we have dwelled here today. They weren't the individual Daniel Boones out with the dog and a gun wandering around alone. They were members of a community. They would not have been in space without all of the people who share their tragedy today here on the ground. And in the last week, of course, they have become members of a much larger community. As the President said, it is death in the family. We'll have a complete wrap-up later on World News Tonight. I'm glad you could join us today. I'm Peter Jennings at the Johnson Space Center in Texas.
This has been an ABC News special, Memorial for the Seven, a presentation of ABC News.